Hey everybody, welcome to the video. It's Michael with Impact Data Source. Just wanted to provide you an update with a major data release that will impact some TEAs throughout the country for EB-5. As always, if there's any questions that you have after this that I did not answer in this video regarding TEAs or also EB-5 economic studies as well, feel free to email me or reach out at any time. So the focus of this video is going to be the rural, an update about rural TEAs. Just to kind of, as a quick recap, kind of three main ways right now under the new law to qualify for a TEA, and that reduced investment threshold of 800,000. Rural TEAs, as we'll get into, most of this video will be about that. Also, high unemployment TEAs where we have to deal with census tracts, and then also there's the infrastructure category, which we're not going to discuss at all in this video. So the new law has increased the interest in rural TEAs. So let's kind of do just a quick refresher on how do you qualify as a rural TEA. So pulling this straight from the policy manual, basically we have to check off two boxes to be able to qualify as a rural TEA. The first one, which is what we're going to discuss today, is it has to be outside of a metropolitan statistical area, an MSA, as defined by the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. Also has to be outside of any city or town with greater than 20,000 population, based on the most recent decennial census. The decennial census numbers came out a year ago or so, I believe, so we don't have to worry about those for another 7 or 8 years. But we do want to talk about a major data release. The OMB just released the updated metropolitan statistical area delineations, and this is their every 10-year update. So while they do some smaller updates throughout, in between those time periods, this is a major one. So we haven't seen this level of movement in 10 years on this. So from looking at the list, it looks like about 100 counties throughout the U.S. have changed their status. So counties have been added to MSAs and so have lost potential for rural status. Other counties have been dropped off the list and now have a chance to be rural. So let's just walk through a few case examples to kind of see how this data is kind of flowing through and how these changes are kind of working. So looking here at our online TEA app that you can find it at this address here. Also, our friends over at EB5investors.com, EB5 Investors Magazine co-sponsor the app with us, and you can find the app through their link and on their webpage as well. So one change that I noticed, just as an example here, was that there were changes to the New York City MSA. Now, the New York MSA is a huge MSA, 20 plus counties, and I noticed that Pike County, Pennsylvania, which was previously part of the New York MSA, the OMB removed it from the list. So they decided that Pike County did not have enough economic interconnectivity with the other counties in the New York MSA, so dropped it off. So Pike County, removed from an MSA, is now rural, and as you can see, our app is updated with all this new data that was just released within the last week. And so the app will show you, hey, right here, this works as a rural TEA. And if you click on more details, it'll tell you that the entire county works as a rural TEA. So it checks off both boxes. It just got removed from the MSA, and the whole county also, there's no cities or towns with more than 20,000 population within the whole county. So let's take a look at an opposite example of a county that was added to an MSA and has now potentially lost its rural status. So I'm down here in Austin, Texas, so I was curious how the state of Texas kind of fared with this overall release. And I was it was kind of interesting to see that, for one example, the county of Bosque County, Texas, was added to the Waco MSA in this new release. Now, Bosque County, for all practical purposes, is rural. The whole county itself is only around 18,000 population. But the OMB in their analysis analyzed that Bosque County had enough economic interconnectivity to Waco through commuting patterns, et cetera, to add it to the MSA. So just punching in this example address, the apps, instead of saying rural like it would have under the previous data, it checked for rural, does not work at rural, does not work as a rural TEA. So it'll start analyzing for high unemployment to see if the census tracts might work. And so we can look down here and through the census tract analysis, so it's looking at the project tract and only the directly adjacent census tracts to see if it works as a high unemployment TEA. Again, this video is more about rural, but just as a refresher, for high unemployment, the new law restricts us to only use the directly adjacent census tract, so the app tracks all that automatically. We can see that the best case rate we can get for this is 3%, where we need to hit 5.4. Recall that the app has a trend analysis as well, so we can look at more recent data that's been released beyond the calendar year data. The most recent data is through May 2023. This is also just updated in the app. You can see this trend line here as we're looking at some different rolling month averages. While it is slightly going up, it's nothing real promising. So this location doesn't really have much of a chance to look good as a TEA anytime in the near future. So those are just a couple of examples of how this new data is going to flow. Again, I think there's about 100 counties that have changed their status overall. So let's take a look at a few frequently asked questions that I get. Again, if you have any other questions that are not covered in this video, email me or feel free to call me anytime to chat. Let's take a look at a few of the most frequently asked questions regarding rural TEAs. So one of the most common questions I get with rural TEAs and really any other data is, when will USCIS require that this new rural data, these new MSA delineations be utilized? And the answer is, we don't know for sure when USCIS is going to start using these or looking at these, but to play it safe, we should assume that they are looking at them right now. And so I understand that some projects out there may look at this new data and say, oh, my project is no longer rural anymore based on this new data. So there's a couple things to think about with that. One is recall that if your 956F is already on file, the new law has this new provision that we did not have under the old law, which is nice, that says, your TEA is locked in for 2 years from the time that you file your 956F. Or properly file your 956F is what the policy manual says. So again, if that's happened already, then you theoretically don't need to worry about these changes at all, and you have 2 years from the time of your 956F to work under the previous data. But what if you're in the situation where we're working, you have a somewhat shovel-ready project that was rural under the old data, have not filed your 956F yet? Is there anything you could do? And the answer is, I don't know. Again, it would certainly be an additional risk factor if you tried to file a 956F, showing the previous data set. We just, kind of don't know for sure how they'll do things, but to be safe, we should assume that USCIS is likely going off the latest and greatest data available. Again, under that situation where you have not filed your 956F and your project may have switched, dropped out of rural status. So one thing you can also do is check to see, does it work as a high unemployment TEA now? If it does, then you could think about filing it as a high unemployment TEA. If it doesn't, it doesn't work under any case whatsoever, and you want to think about trying to maybe keep that rural status or using the older data set. The OMB did say, the Office of Management and Budget, when they did release their the standards for their new delineations, they did say that if these areas are used for program administration, OMB recommends structuring the use in a way that prevents any unintended disruption that may be caused by OMB's regular review and revision of the standards. So, based on that, I don't know, if that's worth anything or not in the eyes of USCIS, but maybe something to discuss with your immigration attorneys about if can feel like, hey, that's an argument where OMB is kind of saying, hey, these programs, you should give these people a grace period to avoid any major disruptions. But again, I don't know if that's worth anything at all, or it'd be worthwhile to go down that path. So just out there for discussion purposes with your attorneys if you feel like it's worth it. So the second main question I get is, yeah, so what can we expect going forward with these rural data changes, these MSA delineations? Is every year are we going to have 100 counties changing their status, dropping off, getting added? Is there going to be a lot of uncertainty going forward? And the good news is that no, this major of an update should not happen for another 10 years. And OMB says their next release is going to be in the end of December of 2024, but they should be very minor tweaks, maybe adding a county here, dropping a county there off of the list. So nothing anywhere close to what this should look like. So this list that's out now, you should feel pretty comfortable with it. That's going to stay. That county will keep its status, whatever that status might be. So for rural TEAs, we've got the population locked in for a long time. We've got the MSA delineations locked in more or less for a pretty long time. So that's kind of where we're at. This was the last kind of big domino to fall for the rural and metro delineations at this time. So so that's it for now. Let me know any other questions you might have. My email and phone number are below there, and I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for watching the video.